we may spend hundreds of hours watching how to draw videos. Let's make sure we're watching the channels that are going to make our learning experience as easy, as fast, as enjoyable, and as productive as possible. So here's a 6-point checklist which may be helpful to think about with the how to draw channels we're watching. And the first point is that there's consistency throughout the various videos on the channel. The videos can cover a wide range of drawing topics, of drawing subjects, of drawing techniques, and yet there's a common lens that all of them flow through. There's a consistency in the underlying, the undergirding thought processes, understanding about drawing, and the thinking that takes place for it. What this also means is that the videos aren't going to contradict each other. There won't be a bit of this over here, a bit of that over there, and something even of that over there, but rather everything can be lined up in a way and there is some sort of progression from one to the other because of this commonality of basic understanding. And besides the fact that it's easier to learn when our learning content doesn't contradict itself from one chapter to the next, it's also important, this consistency, because what it means is as we watch video after video on a certain channel, the videos connect, they build together, they flow from one to another. There's a progression. What we learn from one is strengthened in another. We'll probably start to hear the same phrases, the same words. We'll see the same steps, the same progression in a drawing, possibly happen from a simple drawing to a more advanced drawing to a very advanced drawing. But there'll be a commonality of all these things that in every instance gives us a greater, a deeper understanding. And this will really improve our learning. This second point flows on from that first one. But it's that a drawing channel that's going to help me to learn faster and more easily is one that both has an underlying understanding of a drawing process. And I say of a drawing process because there is more than one way of understanding the drawing process, but that this channel and the videos in it has an understanding and it uses that understanding in its videos, but also that it teaches quite explicitly. It explains the understanding of the drawing process that it's using in all the drawing demonstrations that it gives. The problem with a video that merely is follow along, draw with me, draw this, now draw this, now draw this, is that it doesn't give me any understanding of why the artist in the video is putting those lines or marks where they're putting them. I'm just following along. I'm just copying. I'm not having any understanding of the process that they have, that they understand. And so this won't actually teach me how to draw. It will teach me how to copy, and it will give me a nice drawing at the end. And if that's what I want in a drawing session, then that's great. A lot of this comes down to what we're wanting to learn and what we're wanting to be able to do at the end of our learning. But I won't be taught how to draw by practicing copying, because the hardest part is not putting the marks on the paper. It's not drawing the lines. It's knowing what lines I want to put on the paper, where I'm going to put them, why I'm putting them there, how I'm going to put them on the paper. These are the things that are challenging when we draw. And these are the questions that get their answers from our understanding of what the drawing process is for me and in this drawing. This understanding guides me, directs me, and it happens before any mark is put on the paper. I don't have to, in the end, adopt the channel's understanding of the drawing process, but it's a starting point, and it certainly teaches me what an understanding of a drawing process may look like. Or I may find that it aligns with how and what I'm trying to draw really well, and perhaps I'll just modify it a little bit as I strengthen my understanding of where I'm wanting to go in my drawing process. But if you never know how to start a drawing or feel that you know what you're doing, then it's very likely you've not been watching videos that equip you to have an understanding, that teach you an understanding of the drawing process. The third point is if I'm wanting to learn to draw, I would never watch a video where I cannot see the reference material that the artist is using. I want to see what they're using just off camera. I want to see that on camera. I want to be able to see when they put marks on the paper, what those marks are referring to, where those marks come from, what they're trying to do. Because this comes back to the last point. This comes back to understanding of process. And we can't understand the process of the marks on the paper if we can't see where they start. Imagine trying to learn a foreign language, but we only get to hear the foreign language. We don't get to hear the original part in a language we understand, then translated into the foreign language, having no idea what that foreign language is referring back to. How much slower will it be and frustrating will it be than if we knew in our own language what they were trying to say? I find the most helpful metaphor for learning to understand the drawing process is that it's a translation process. It's a translation from a visual reality, from what we see, whether we see it in life or whether we see it in a photo, into marks on the paper. What I see in the photo, I translate into ink marks. And when I can see the reference the artist is using and then the ink marks or whatever marks they're using on the paper, I get to connect the two. I get to go, when they're looking at this, they turn it into this, and I can now judge the effectiveness of what they've done from what they were trying to do. And even if they're not giving me the benefit of a voiceover that explicitly explains what's happening, which is obviously ideal, I get to at least observe and quite possibly connect the dots myself. This becomes that. Because when we draw, we're not just outlining shapes accurately. We're doing far more than that. We're creating values, we're creating lights and darks. We're trying to capture edges that aren't necessarily a straight, hard edge. We're having to create effects of things that we can't actually draw precisely with a pen. Think of leaves on a tree, grass on the lawn, sand on the beach. Or think of drawing distance. How do we draw distance? How do we draw close versus far away? How do we draw three-dimensional form rather than shape? If I can see the reality of these things in the reference, then I can see how that artist translates those things into marks on the paper. And if I think he does that well, effectively, or at least in a way that I would like to be able to use that would suit the way I want to draw, now I can start to really analyze their marks and use them myself to try and create the same effect, the same impact in my drawing that they have in theirs. The fourth indicator of a channel that's going to help me learn to draw well is one that addresses the whole range, the whole scope of issues that affect us when we're learning to draw. It's not just techniques for putting ink on the paper that have an impact when I learn drawing. I need to understand the best way to organize myself when I draw. I may need help in working out the most productive schedule. It can be helpful to have input that suggests a range of ways we can do these so that we can choose the ones most helpful for us. I may not realize it at the start. A lot of shorter drawings that are far simpler in what they attempt is a far more productive way to learn than doing large, complex drawings that take a long time and where at the end it's so detailed it can be harder to see the issues that I might need to overcome. It's going to be helpful to have a range of videos from beginner stage to advanced stage. It's not that I should be doing the advanced ones when I'm at the beginner stage, but I can still watch them and get a sense of where I am going to, which can be both encouraging but extremely helpful, particularly when there's a consistency of approach, of language. It will really help me to understand in the advanced videos what's happening because it's flowing from the same place in many respects the same ways as what I'm learning in my beginner videos. There may be help in how to choose resources. There may be help in bad habits to avoid. It's not just developing good habits that may not be obvious, but it's not falling into bad, unhelpful habits that may feel natural or the right way to go. It may be helpful to have a channel where I'm given references to use, because that saves me time and encourages me to draw things that perhaps I wouldn't have thought of drawing in the first place, and therefore broaden the areas in which I'm developing my skills. Perhaps I need help with perfectionism, or just help learning how to cope with mistakes and overcome them, particularly when I can't erase. When we learn to draw, there are lots of issues we suddenly have to deal with, and it's not just what direction do I crosshatch in or how do I understand perspective. So a channel that deals with this broad range of issues that now affect us can really be of benefit in our learning to draw. I've always believed that a good teacher can make complex things sound easy, sound simple. Make the person being taught wonder why this was ever a problem in the first place, because suddenly it sounds straightforward. And so a good drawing channel will do this. A good drawing channel will almost make you feel like you don't need to watch it. But a good channel will make me feel that drawing is easier than I thought. Will make me feel that I want to draw, that I can draw, that I can learn, that I can improve. And it will certainly have a focus and help me to understand, help me to connect that learning to draw is learning a skill. And if I've learned any skill in my life, then I've shown that I've got the skill of learning and that I can apply that skill to drawing. It's always good to have confidence in the drawing ability of a teacher, because that shows that whatever understanding they have, they've been able to outwork it to put it into actual drawing. So that's encouraging, and of course it gives me something to model off in my drawing. But in the end, a great drawing teacher doesn't have to be the best drawer themselves, in the same way that the best football coach isn't necessarily a better player than the players they're coaching. I don't want to be entertained or impressed by my drawing channel teacher, but rather I want to feel that I can learn from them and that I am learning from them, and that the learning is not as hard as perhaps I feared. And my final point, which I flagged at the start, is that the best drawing channels for me to watch are the ones that actually improve my drawing. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to judge this in the first couple of videos that I watch. But once I've watched a number of videos from the one channel, the question I need to ask myself is, have my drawings improved? The things that I've been taught, or at least the things that I've heard and or seen demonstrated in those videos, have I been able to incorporate those into my drawing? Because that's the end result I want from any teaching that I receive. I want to be able to incorporate that teaching, whether it's understanding, whether it's big picture organization, whether it's psychological issues, or whether it's actual drawing techniques, ink on the paper. I want to be able to incorporate those into my drawing and see my drawings improve from it. Because once you've realized that this is happening, then this is a channel you need to stay with, because it will continue to deliver the goods for you, at least for some period down the track. I think there are 3 areas perhaps you can think about as, am I improving in these? And the first is in understanding. Do I feel like I'm now understanding the drawing process more than I did? That I don't look at a photo and almost feel like I'm guessing, just starting to put ink on the paper, hoping that it works out. But that I'm starting to get a big picture understanding of the drawing process that does direct me, as I talked about earlier. The second area is confidence. Am I growing a confidence about drawing from watching this channel? Am I feeling more, yes, I can, rather than, oh, it's too hard, I probably can't do this, why did I even begin? Because as the right channel equips me, I will grow in confidence at what I can do, and partly because I'm seeing that I am improving. And thirdly, in my actual drawing, that what I do is closer to where I'm wanting to go in my drawing than where I was before I started watching this channel's videos. And if you can tick all three boxes from a channel that you're watching, that I'm growing in understanding of the drawing process, that I'm growing in confidence, and that my drawings are improving, then that's a great channel to stay with. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. If this has been helpful, please hit the like button and help me out. But hey, in the end, whatever drawing channels you're watching, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.